The TurboGrafx-16 Mini is my favorite all-in-one mini retro console, but it's definitely not for everyone. I know. When I reviewed the Sega Genesis Mini last year, I said that was my favorite, but the TurboGrafx-16 Mini has bumped it out of the top spot thanks to a solid selection of obscure games and oodles of M2 emulation charm. That being said, the TurboGrafx-16 was never a mainstream console, but it was historically significant. With the bulk of its games available only in Japanese and the relative obscurity of its English language game selection, it's a niche product aimed at old people like me, and not a mainstream audience. When you turn on the TurboGrafx-16 power switch, a little tab moves over the end of the game card slot, just like it does in the actual hardware. There's absolutely no reason for this feature to exist, and yet it does, just for the authentic charm of it. I appreciate little touches like that. Inside the period-appropriate, vaporwave aesthetic box is an HDMI cable, USB power cable, the console itself, and a controller. My one major gripe is the plastic shell covering the power and HDMI ports on the back is a little tough to pop off. Other than that small complaint, my other beef is it only includes one controller. That's one too few when you consider the quality of the multiplayer games included. If you want another controller, that's $24.99 on top of the $99 console. Who sees a Bomberman game and thinks, oh, I can't wait to dive into that single-player story? No one. That's who. The menu has lots of cool extra touches. For example, look at these little absurd PC Engine Kun wandering around. They can be turned on or off, but why? In this era of social distancing, PC Engine Kun, you're just what I needed right now. There are 5 different display settings, including 4x3 stretched and a pixel perfect mode, but the 5th is my favorite, the Turbo Express. If you're unfamiliar, the Turbo Express was a portable TurboGrafx-16 with a built-in TV tuner. Building this in is so stupid and pointless, and I'll probably never use it in a meaningful capacity, but I'm a sucker for that kind of thing, and it looks exactly as I remembered. You can also switch between the TurboGrafx-16 and PC Engine interfaces from the main menu screen, and look at the effect you get when you do! Once again, it's a little touch I absolutely love. Other amazing touches to the interface include a pixelated, animated version of the TurboGrafx CD when you start a CD-ROM game. Before the game starts, it plays the sound of a mechanical drive spinning up a CD. It nearly sent me into a nostalgia coma. Oh, right, the games. There are 57 included with the TurboGrafx-16, but the majority of them are PC Engine releases, which is kind of a bummer because they're all in Japanese, which I super cannot read. But of the 57, 25 were released in the West, and they range from must-play retro games like Alien Crush and Splatterhouse, all the way down to games like JJ and Jeff, a terrible side-scrolling garbage dump of a game which I played for the purposes of this review and will never, ever again boot up. Overall, the selection is a classic shmup lover's dream, with shooters being the predominant genre of included games. On the PC Engine side of the interface, it has a solid lineup of games you've almost certainly never played, to familiar Japanese versions of games that you have. They range from awesome games like Salamander and R-Type to Genji and the Hayeko Clans, a bizarre side-scrolling fever dream I don't think I will ever play again. Other notables include Castlevania, Rondo of Blood, the famously bizarre Chowaniki, and Ginga Fukae Densetsu Sapphire, an original copy of which will set you back a few $100 on eBay. It wouldn't be an M2 product if it weren't hiding some secrets, and there are at least 3 hidden games on the TurboGrafx-16 Mini: Force Gear, Twin Bee Tanks, and the arcade version of Konami's Salamander, accessible through a series of button pushes during Salamander's loading animation. Their existence had me looking through every game, mashing buttons to see if I could unlock even more secrets. I didn't. The TurboGrafx-16 Mini has supplanted the Genesis Mini as my favorite retro all-in-one. Its delightful menu system, clever secrets, and charming display options complement its selection of mainstream and off-the-wall games to overcome any minor complaints I might have about its lack of a second controller. That being said, the TG16 is aimed at a narrow band of retro gaming enthusiasts, and its obscurity makes it a hard sell beyond the world of obsessive collectors like myself. For more retro console goodness, check out our review of the Sega Genesis Mini, and for everything else, keep it right here on IGN.